have been able to have our children here. And now that that's being taken away from us, it means that there's that extra stress. We're going to have to go away to Rockhampton or Brisbane, which means husbands can't always come down, and we may have to be there 4 to 6 weeks prior to the birth. So it means husbands can't get there until just before and possibly miss their child being born. And we also need to hire more staff. We need to be able to pay for accommodation if we don't have family in these other cities. So it's not just that we can't have our children in our own little town, which is wonderful. It's the fact that a lot of people can't afford to go and have children in bigger centres.
I've had 4 children. I've got 2 daughters and 2 sons. My second daughter was actually born on the side of the road. They're having a bit of problems, so they were trying to get me to Billawheeler. I got about 3 k's out of town. So she was born on the first corner heading out of town, so it was pretty scary because I'm in the back of an ambulance trying to have a baby. The only good thing was that I actually had a midwife, a highly qualified midwife, which I've still got here. I had a doctor, midwife and the ambulance. So, if I'd been by myself, it would have been a different story. So with my daughter now, when she had her baby, it was a very short labour, if she'd been in the same boat.
We had to travel away for our first child to Rocky because, again, birthing services weren't open here in Theodore. He had to stay behind and work on the property, and unfortunately I went into labour on our way to Rocky, and labour progressed very quickly, and our daughter was born without him there, so he actually missed the birth of our first child. So our second child, we actually were lucky enough to have her here. She again was very quick birth, so if we weren't able to have her here, she may have been born along the way, possibly at Lee's house. So it was much better experience being able to have her here in the Theodore Hospital. The care was much more personal, it was one-on-one, family was much closer.
My job as Chief Executive, and my job is to draw in clinical advice from colleagues in my organisation and elsewhere where that's appropriate. So I'm absolutely clear that this is me as Chief Executive stood in front of you.
Advice, because I wasn't privy to the last meeting, and I would like to understand as a midwife and as a clinician to support my community, I want to understand how you came to that decision and what evidence supports risk. Yes.
And as I said, and thank you for that I've asked Annette to talk about the clinical risk.
No, you need to answer some questions.
Last time we had the meeting, I asked where the bottom of Banana Shire was, and you didn't really know. Well, I brought a friend with me today. She had her baby here a fair few years ago now. She's an hour and a half from Theodore, 3.5 hours from Billawheeler. So the board hasn't got all the facts. I think the board needs to go back to the table and reassess their decision because they didn't have all the facts. So if you're in business and you haven't got all the facts and things are going wrong, you go back to the table and you start again. I think you need to start again.
Zach Beers, my question, I guess I should premise it with a comment. I think it's abundantly clear that the community in Theodore here is not going to take a backward step in this fight. I think it's abundantly clear that the community here is going to fight you on this decision every step of the way. My question to you is, what needs to change? You talk about the risk, you talk about the challenges in terms of delivering the birthing service here. What needs to change to make this happen for the community of Theodore? Thank you, Zach.
So we all know there is an inherent risk in childbirth. Doesn't there come a point when we, as future parents, have to acknowledge and accept those inherent risks? We are not asking for a guarantee, we're asking for a choice.
I'm sure we haven't answered all of these questions. I do want Bruce to make a comment about the vision. Look, we've been absolutely clear. And what we are absolutely categorically saying to the community is it is that risk that despite the fact that there haven't been many of the incidents in the past, that doesn't take away that risk is there in the future. Your hospital and health service, myself as Chief Executive, Annette as Director of Medical Services, Joe as Executive Director for Gladstone and Banana, our colleagues and our board are clear about that risk. And we are seeking to provide the safe services so that in those rare times when that intervention is needed, we are there, our clinical team is there to provide that emergency or urgent intervention, because without that, the risk that Annette talked about, the risk to the health and potentially, ultimately, the life of a mum or bub is there.
Thank you, Stephen. My question is to Sue. You have advocated, Stephen, for safety issues involving birthing here so that expectant mothers might travel to Billawheeler, for an example, to have their baby. Sue, you have just told us that those ladies might be transferred back to the Theodore facility 2 hours after they've given birth. Could you expand and explain to us how that is a better outcome for the women of Theodore?
Thank you for that question, Colin. Can I see if there are 2 more questions, and then we'll try and answer those questions.
The other things that we discussed, and I think in our discussions with Steve, we want Theodore to remain the best little bloody hospital in Queensland.
How is that increasing our safety and our cost to travel backwards and forwards, and our cost if they have a baby on the side of the road and there's a bleed and someone dies? Where's the increased risk? It's higher. It's gone higher than what
You're causing it.
Yeah. How is your idea better than having something straight here where we have everything?
Not reinstating planned birthing services, but I will continue to emphasise the safety risk.
That birthing suite, are you going to repay the community back $70,000 that we have put into that birthing suite on a promise that that birthing suite would open? Are you going to pay us back?
It should have been open 3 years ago. I should have had my first child here. I should have had my second child here. I was sent away for both. Why?
No reason.
I was sent out of Rockhampton with no continuity of care, 36 hours after a birth. Second child.
Theodore Hospital certainly has the facilities to be able to cope with emergencies, but particularly for young people coming to a local community where they have the support of family and friends is a great benefit. And Theodore community should not let this go by without a major fight, because our services for health in Australia are diminishing in the rural areas.
Dawson River, Dawson Strong, Dawson Mothers, we have longed to have our babies here at home. This is not the time to go. We are families, we belong.
you're made to feel like you're a part of a family, and you care, and you're not a number in the system. You're actually, you're known as that person, as that mother, as that family member, and your kids are known individually. Whereas in the cities, you're just looked upon as another patient, and they're trying to get you out as quick as they can.
It was such a valuable experience to be able to have my children in my own hometown. I remember when my first child was born, it was actually Mother's Day of all days. We're having Sunday lunch, the contractions started, and an hour later we just did the leisurely 20k drive from our property to the hospital. The local doctor was on hand. I had previously done my maternity lessons here, birthing lessons here with the midwife. I'd had appointments with the local doctor, Bruce Chater. He was there, the midwives were there seeing me through my labour, and I would never have had a chance to have that experience if I had to be driven to Rockhampton or go down to Brisbane and break up our family to have my firstborn down there. One night I started to have cramps, and I thought it was happening that night, and I knew my husband was stuck at work here in Theodore, and you then start to worry about him rushing to drive in also, like then what if he has an accident, and there's a lot that comes with it. And then I also had my toddler missing her dad, so she was like some nights quite upset that Daddy wasn't there. So it creates a snowball effect, and it was a long time away. By the time we got home, we were away for just over 3 weeks. We were all very happy to be home.
When I found out I was pregnant, I moved back here to have my daughter, but got told I wasn't allowed to. So I had to go to Rockhampton. And they said if you go to Rockhampton, you can't just come in and say you're in labour and have your baby. You have to have 3 or 4 checkups beforehand. So it's back and forth to Rocky. And it's nearly a 3-hour drive, so it's fuel and accommodation overnight by the time you get to the doctors and come back. And then when it was time to have her, they induced me, so I wasn't waiting in Rocky for 3 or 4 weeks. And my partner came down for the day to have her. And then he had to come back to Theodore for work. So he missed out the 3 or 4 days that we were in hospital with. So I was there by myself with a newborn baby without my partner. So my partner had to come back to Theodore the day after she was born. So I was in Rockhampton by myself with her for 4 days. So he missed out on the first bonding with her, and we missed out on the leaving hospital together and the car trip home together as a family. It was just us two, and thank God Mum was there because she helped me through it. Otherwise I would have been by myself with a newborn baby. And we left hospital at 8 o'clock at night, so it was a 3-hour drive home. So we got home about the time we got home it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and then my partner had to go to work that morning, so he missed out on another day spending with his child.
Third, I planned a caesarean because we lived so far away from a hospital that could offer me services, because my local hospital didn't. So for me, we did that because financially I couldn't have afforded to be away from home for 4 weeks in a hospital with 2 other small children, waiting to go into labour. So it just made a natural decision for me that if I just had to book a Caesar and deal with whatever came after that.
shower with just a nurse who has to push 20 buttons.
So,
Where did you say you lose 24/7 care? I had to go because there was no staff to come and check.
Yeah.
I did it without pain relief because no one could come and check me.
wow.
I was too busy.
I'm pleased that it all turned out really well. Yeah, I am.
My stepson was born, stepdaughter went to Theodore Hospital, telehealth, medication, hold the contractions while to stop the contractions while she's 4 centimetres dilated. And they've instructed to shift off to Billawheeler. Billawheeler give her more drugs and then send her home. Now, that's great. That's great. Send her back to Theodore. So I had an appointment with the doctor the next week. Went and did that. No worries, come back home. The appointment the next week, went to see him and turned around and said, oh no, you have to go to Gladstone now because there's no doctor in town for a week. And that was this year. Billawheeler. And now she had to travel all the way back to Theodore, pick her mum up, pick her son up, and then travel all the way back to Gladstone. 2 days later she had the baby, but while they're having birth, and the 2-year-old in the room, the baby's come out and had to get a paediatrician to make her breathe again. The mother's almost died on the table because she's just had it, and she had an 11-pound 4 baby and a little girl. Because she could have had it right here, while she was 4 centimetres tall and had it naturally. You're telling her stuff.
So I don't know all the details.
Where's the cost? Where's the trauma?
I'm pleased.
None of that risk factor is taken into place.
I'm pleased the baby turned out well. I am.
It's a lot of stress and pain on the family through your decisions. If she had it right here in Theodore with a perfectly healthy baby, 8-9 count, big cat, it could have been done and dusted with all the extra costs.
What's the point? You Gladstone open her afterwards.
I'll send
For
her
the
home.
trauma. Send her home.
So as Annette said, first and foremost, it is very positive and fantastic that things turned out well.
If Mum was here today, she would have something to say to this gentleman about the trauma that women have been going through for years, having to go away to have their babies. Your big question that you're asking is, if there's risk, what are you going to do about reducing the risk and making people... Let's move forward from when my mother had me in 1957 or my first brother in 1927 and they had to go away 3 hours on a train. Are you going to move forward and bring birth back to community?